Good morning and welcome to the programme. Happy Tuesday to you. Hope you're having a nice morning. We are going to be talking to Ronan Cleary in a few minutes. He's the Ain 2 candidate in the general election. We're also going to be talking to Sean Defoe, political correspondent, on last night's leaders' debate. So text us in anything you want regarding questions such as that. And also the animal sanctuary people will be talking about that horrendous case of the 3 puppies who were left on the side of the road there over the last few days and died. We're also going to be talking to Dermot Good, health insurance expert with totalhealthcover.ie. 1 in 5 of people's health insurance premiums fall due for renewal in January. So there's tens of thousands of people out there that are renewing their health insurance at the end of January. We're going to give them the latest in terms of if you can afford it, what policies should you be looking at. We're also going to be talking to Fergus Carney and Georgina Kiley regarding issues such as CE supervisors. And we will be talking to Fiona Ferris, Deputy CEO of As I Am, regarding Catherine Noon's statement that Leo Varadkar is autistic. We're also going to be possibly playing a song from Green Day regarding a holiday. So if you hear the full thing of this song later on, you can text us. Don't text us yet, though. This is the song you have to listen out for.
On holiday.
So if you hear the full version of Holiday by Green Day, you can contact us on 083 3333 975. You can call Audrey on 051 846 123. Good morning, Sean Defoe.
Morning, Gavin.
How are you getting on?
Flying it. How about you?
Flying it. Just make sure you're in a good area for us there, because the signal can drop out a little bit. What part of the country are you this morning? Are you out with any of the candidates, or where are you?
Preparing for the manifesto launches in Dublin. We've got 2 manifestos dropping today, 2 more nice meaty documents to look through. Labour and Sinn Féin both launching theirs in Dublin City this afternoon. So that's on my agenda for the next little while, as I was covering this debate last night and the debate hangover that inevitably comes with it.
Yes. Labour last night, I'd say Brendan Howlin was a little bit annoyed that he was pushed to the far side of the podium listings, and beside Micheál Martin. Micheál is quite a tall man. I think he's 6'1", 6'2", and Brendan looked a little bit kind of out of it in that perspective, the optics of it. What did you think of that?
Yeah, a little bit. I mean, usually those are decided, the voting positions are decided by knot of the jaw. Sometimes it can benefit you, sometimes it can't. I think he was next to Micheál Martin and Eamon Ryan, both of whom are quite tall men, both over 6 foot. It probably actually benefited Mary Lou McDonald, who found herself between Leo Varadkar and Micheál Martin, and was kind of able to look at both sides and criticise both sides. So it's weird how it can help. And Roisin Shortall, though, ended up flat bang in the middle, which is usually a great spot for a debate, and yet didn't make a huge amount of impact last night. So it is what you make of it, no matter where you're put.
It is, yeah, like a greyhound race, you know, depending what track and what what you're put into, it can help decide the outcome of it. What's your general view, Sean Defoe, News Talk political correspondent, regarding last night's debate? I
think there was probably no clear out-and-out winner. A couple of people who'll be happy with their performances and some who won't. The topic, to be fair, it was a very wide-ranging debate. Didn't really get into health would be the only criticism of it. That was the one topic that is obviously important to a huge amount of people that didn't really get into. I think Mary Lou McDonald and Richard Barrett will probably be the 2 who were happy after the debate. Barrett was quite a
Sean, I think for some reason the signal is gone there. We'll try to get you back on in a few minutes. If we don't, we will talk to you again another time. Let us know what you have to say about last night's leaders' debate, whether you think it was good, whether you think it was bad. Some people were saying that Leo Varadkar didn't engage as much as he maybe should have. Micheál Martin and Leo. And then I suppose we had Mary Lou McDonald making some points. Did she get too much time? Did the smaller parties, the likes of Richard Boyd Barrett, he got quite a bit of applause from the audience regarding comments he was making, as did, I think, Brendan Howlin did at one stage, and Roisin Shortall came across as quite well. We're going to be talking to, as I say, Ronan Cleary in a minute. Ain 2 weren't in that debate, and they had a court case that they were going to list yesterday. They withdrew it, I think, in the afternoon, regarding the fact that they felt that they had been excluded in that debate. Sean Defoe, I know you're back on the line. With just one more question in terms of what do you think is there... I was just saying that Richard Boyd Barrett got a few bit of applause because of the populist things that he said, and people related to what he'd said, and Roisin Shortall came across quite well, as you say. And do you think last night's debates, do you think these debates make a difference? I suppose they do in some respect, don't they?
I do, yeah, I do think they make a difference. What was notable to me last night was there was a lot of people who don't pay a huge amount of attention to politics texting me asking, well, who's this person and what are they saying and what's their view on this? So there's people definitely getting involved. I think when you have campaigns that are done in January like this one is, I don't know about down in Waterford, or certainly what I've heard is there's not a huge amount of people calling to doors. A lot of people haven't had the cameras around the doors because of the late nights and because people don't like calling around in the dark. So these debates then take on a bit more resonance in actually getting the views of people across and the views of different politicians across to the country. So I think that, along with the one on Thursday and the one next week, would have quite an impact. And I think if you're looking at people who will probably be happiest at the last night, as I was saying, Marilyn McDonald, Richard Boyd Barrett, I think the Taoiseach had a fairly credible debate as well. I think he'll be pretty happy. Micheál Martin may be a bit disappointed from the first two that he hasn't made the impact he knows he's able to do. He is quite a good debater, but that hasn't come across. So definitely still time for them all to make a bit more impact, but crucially, and I think particularly when you have these seven-way debates, when there's a huge amount of candidates on the field, the task is almost just not to do something absolutely terrible and implode when you're in that kind of a debating scenario, and none of them did that either.
Yeah, I think you're right there on that. How do you think this, we're going to have somebody on from As I Am later regarding this comment from Catherine Noone. She's now withdrawn the comment, saying that she thought or thinks Leo Varadkar is on the spectrum, the autistic spectrum. Will that dominate political discourse today?
It's definitely going to be a talking point. It's an absolutely stupid comment made by Catherine Noone, who's a former running mate of Leo Varadkar in Dublin West. She ran as his constituency partner in the last election. Now she's running in Dublin Bay North alongside Richard Bruton. Something that was just, it seems to have been said quite flippantly, went out on the canvas, and she did try to withdraw it, tried to explain it, because it's been well commented in the media how the Taoiseach can be slightly socially awkward, that he isn't perhaps the natural campaigner that the likes of his predecessor Enda Kenny was. That's not really his political style, and he's addressed that even in the last leaders' debate on Virgin Media, saying it's not that I don't care, I just sometimes have difficulty expressing that. So Catherine Noone has withdrawn the comments, but I think very, very stupid, shows a lack of understanding of autism itself. There's a lack of understanding on her part as someone who's running for elected office. So I think she's going to bear a big brunt of that today. As you said, you're going to talk about it on your show and talk about it on others, and you know, people need to kind of be understanding of what it does mean to make those kind of comments and how hurtful they can be, not only to the Taoiseach as her party leader and running mate, but to everyone else around the country as well. Yeah,
okay. Sean, thanks for joining us this morning. Best of luck this week.
Thanks, Damien. Cheers.
Thank you. Sean Defoe there, political correspondent with News Talk. Number of people texting in regarding those comments and saying there's nothing wrong with saying somebody's on the spectrum. I was talking to a psychologist and a psychiatrist last week about this, and he was saying that nearly every, I suppose, top surgeon in different aspects of surgery, many professors are on the spectrum, and in terms of the heightened intelligence and in terms of lots of different ways of dealing with things, it's part and parcel of different ways that people have to operate. So as I say, we're going to be talking to Fiona Ferris about that. If you have a child, or if you're autistic yourself or on the spectrum, please contact us 083 3333 975. You can call 051 846 123. We'll be talking about that later in the programme. The Waterford News and Star is out this morning, as is the Munster Express. I want to encourage everybody to support journalism, local journalism. Buy a newspaper today. Paul has said there's huge concern for the North Keys after reading this week's News and Star. Fine Gael are busy throwing money at vanity projects in Cork while we suffer. Big report by Darren Skelton on the front page of the News and Star. Have a look at that today. Damien, why does it take 2 weeks to get to see a doctor in Cappoquin when they can build a complete hospital in China in 2 weeks? Very good point. Damien, no one mentioned on the debate last night the cost of insurance on creches and social events. That's from a listener in West Waterford. You are 100% right on that. Damien, Richard Boyd Barrett played a blinder last night, the only one to bring up important questions. As I say, he got a round of applause a number of times for different issues that he covered. Now we are going to be talking to Ronan Cleary from Ain2. If you have any questions, text us in 083 3333 975. We are back with Tiernan at 12 with Tiernan. Now, hope you're having a nice Tuesday morning. As I said, text in any questions or any of the topics that we're going to be covering. A WhatsApp message. Damien, I haven't heard much from the candidates about disability service and carers issues, such as extending newborn screening, heel prick testing, implementation of rare disease plan, funding for genetic services. The rare disease families and community feel neglected. Damien, in response to that, listeners, about doctors' appointments in Cappoquin, I just rang there at 9 a.m. and I was offered an appointment within 2 hours. So there's somebody who's saying that the issue is fine, no problem whatsoever. Damien, can you ask Dr. Ronan Cleary what's Aontú's position on the USC charge? Working man, it makes my blood boil that there's not more of a fuss about this so-called emergency tax. That's from Davy in Portlaw. We're going to come to Dr. Cleary in a second. Good morning, Ronan.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you for joining us. Firstly, I want to give a little mention. If you hear all of this song, not just the first 8 seconds, all of this song later in the programme, if we are going to play it, we want you to text in.
On holiday.
I don't know if you're a Green Day fan, Dr. Cleary, are you?
I do. I can't remember. I used to listen to them years ago. They're about 10 or 12 years vintage at this stage, I'd say, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I'm not. Was never a big Green Day fan, but we'll see how it goes. Now, Damien, the lack of questions and focus on the health crisis in last night's political leaders' debate was appalling, says this texter. We're in an emergency regarding public health and our issues need to be covered. Damien, the best statement made last night was by Mary Lou, Tweedledum and Tweedledee politics. Damien, it didn't really matter where any of them stood. They're just still spouting the same old bull. And other people texting in about issues such as that. Now, we are going to talk to Dr. Ronan Cleary from Aontú.
Election 2020, 12 with Tiernan. Hear from your candidates on Deise today on WLR.
So we want to give Dr. Cleary a full run at this. Firstly, before we start the stopwatch, I want to ask you about last night. I suppose the news story that Aontú weren't included in last night's debate. You brought a court case. It was listed in the court, and then you withdrew the court case yesterday regarding not getting in. Why did you withdraw the case?
Well, as you know, Damien, last night, there was a leaders' debate where Aontú was excluded by RTE, quite unfairly with regards to the party's view. We have more votes in the last elections than the Social Democrats and People Before Profit, but RTE saw fit to exclude Pada Tabine from the debate. We initially sought legal advice to bring a High Court injunction against RTE because of this, but we then withdrew the application because of time constraints and also the onerous costs that could be awarded against Aontú in the event that we weren't successful, so we couldn't take that risk.
And RTE obviously argued on the point of view of seats and representation, and that's what they were making their decisions on.
They did, but I think we have a new all-Ireland party, and I think if we can have a full functioning democracy, I think RTE is responsible and also has an obligation to give everybody airtime as such. We have one TD at the moment. We contested the by-elections there recently. We have thousands of members,
and we'll come to that in a second.
Oh yes, so I think it was wrong of RTE to exclude Pada Tabine.
Now let's go. We've got 12 minutes, 12 with Tiernan, 12 minutes, quick fire questions with Ronan Cleary of Aontú. Dr. Cleary, why should people vote for you and Aontú?
Well, Aontú is a grassroots all-Ireland political party, and basically we're seeking to break the stalemate of Irish politics and bring new lifeblood into the Dáil. Aontú is only 1 year old, yet in that time we have grown significantly, building across the 32 counties. Thousands of people have joined Aontú, and tens of thousands of people have voted for us. Currently in Ireland, I believe that we have a very divided country, not only north and south, but between those who have access to healthcare and those who do not, between those who have access to housing and those who do not, and between those whose lives are ravaged by crime and those who aren't. And I think the current incumbents, the political cartel of Fine Gael, Fianna Fáil, are well aware of the predicaments of the differences between rural and urban Ireland and all those other differences, yet still refuse to take active, proactive measures to address them. And therefore, I am asking people to give myself and other Aintu candidates the opportunity to address those concerns.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, please. Where are you from and where are you living and where are you working at?
Yeah, so as you can probably tell, I grew up in England. My mother and father were Tipperary and Wexford people, and like every Irishman in the 50s, had to go to England for work. But I'm very much an Irishman. I actually qualified as a medical doctor in 2014. It was my second career as such. I'm working now currently as a GP in Waterford City. I do locum jobs, and I also work with CareDoc and SouthDoc. I'm recently married in October, and I'm also recently a father for the first time and my baby's 4 weeks old. So that's a bit about myself.
If somebody went into your surgery saying that they were pregnant and they wanted advice on abortion, what would you tell them?
What would I tell them? Well, I would discuss all options with them. All options with them. But in the last debate, abortion now is legal in Ireland, unfortunately, from my point of view, because I was part of Doctors for Life. But abortion isn't the only option with an unwanted pregnancy. And I would discuss all options with the lady in front of me. It's often a very difficult, challenging time for the person. And I would never judge anybody for whatever decision they made. But abortion is not the only option. And sometimes this government, Simon Harris, goes on about choice. But where is the choice for the lady from, say, a lower socioeconomic group who doesn't want to have the abortion but is forced to do so because she cannot afford the other baby? The child creche facilities in this country is nearly like a second mortgage for many people. Why is that the case? Why can't we put more money into ensuring people are able to see their child between Monday to Friday?
And I've read your document that's on your website, The Right to Life. Again, if this woman, as I would call her, went in to look for a travel advice to go to England, would you give her that advice? If she wanted contact numbers for clinics in England, or if she wanted contact numbers for services in Ireland, would you give her that, or would you tell her to go somewhere else?
Well, I think we're now straying from actually what I do in my clinical point of view rather than from...
Is she entitled? Do you know under law, is a woman entitled to get that advice from you? Are you obliged as a doctor to give that advice?
Well, the advice is freely available. The advice is freely available in the community. Yeah, but from an Aintu point of view, we're not just a one-party issue.
I understand.
We're not just a one-party issue. We have a number of ideas to break the political cartel that's going on in Ireland.
And on your policy document and on your website, which needs to be updated because it says that Stormont wasn't still not sitting. It is actually sitting now. Farming in rural Ireland. You talk about farming. You talk about rural Ireland. A lot of people in this constituency are in the farming area. It doesn't give a specific policy in terms of would you reduce the national herd. What's your view about the national herd?
Well, the national farmers and agriculture and fishermen are the backbone of this country, and they have been shafted by Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael. Rural Ireland has been left behind. We aim to propose the equitable beef pricing bill there in the Dáil just before it broke, and it's basically to prevent the below-cost selling of beef. There's no other person in industry or in finance that would work at a loss. At a loss. Imagine working at a loss. But that is what the beef barons and this government expect dairy farmers in this country to do. Also, the fishermen, the common fisheries policy, that has to be addressed. I don't know if you've seen, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, there was a programme on TG Caha, and we have 34% of the EU territorial waters. It's only 4% of the quota. That's absolutely scandalous. And why should we accept that? And we have to send someone back to Brussels and renegotiate this.
OK, renegotiate. In terms of the national herd, you're not sure about the policy on that?
No, the national herd is obviously very large now at the moment. But this has to be addressed. We can't force culling.
I know, and that's why I'm asking the question, because I don't see anything in your policy documents about this. It was mentioned last night on the Leaders' Debate, and I've asked every candidate about this.
Of culling the national herd? Yeah. Well, if we have a sustainable national herd, that is the best option. And that's as far as I can put it.
OK, that's fine.
Beef farmers, though, need to be treated with respect, and our agriculture industry needs to be treated with respect.
Undoubtedly.
And that's not currently happening at the moment.
On the environment section of your policy document on your website, you talk about building a sustainable, environmentally friendly nation. You talk about small wind turbines. Are you in favour of wind energy in communities?
Well, I know that there's plans afoot to put a wind farm off the Copper Coast, only 5 kilometres off the Copper Coast, with these monstrous windmills of 260 metres tall. I'm not
sure exactly the dynamics in that, but there's varying.
I've read an article on it, and I think that's too near. I think 5 kilometres is way too near. I'd be more interested in respectful tree planting. I mean, why can't we plant 3 or 4 million trees in the country, reforest areas that were previously forested back 1,000 years ago? These are much more ecological friendly. Planting hedgerows, bee-friendly hedgerows for our pollinators. There's so much more options to controversial wind farms. So many more options. I mean, there's also wave energy, solar power, there's biodiversity, there's degradable packaging. These are things that we can take a lead on.
Which all cost money.
Yeah.
Would you be in favour of increasing carbon tax to help pay for that?
I have to look at the dynamics of that. But the Green Party at the moment, when Eamon Ryan said last year he would give 1 car per 10 families in rural areas, I mean, that's absolutely insanity, and that would be an absolute no-go. I mean, expecting rural Ireland has suffered enough under the political correctness of the political cartel going on in this country for the last 10, 15 years. When Eamon Ryan says I would put 1 car per 10 families in rural areas, it's absolutely madness.
And to go back to my question, carbon tax?
And carbon tax, we'd have to have a look at that. But I would prefer that if we front-loaded tree planting, hedgerows, reducing the size of family cars, hybrid cars, cycling paths, all of these things. I don't want to put money on a bag of coal for people who want to heat their homes.
I understand that, yeah, but you haven't, and it doesn't specify in the policies whether you're in favour of increasing carbon tax or not. And I'm not hearing it from you.
But these things have to all be taken in context and all have to be taken together. If you're asking me now, do I want money on a bag of coal or more tax on a bag of coal? I'd be saying no.
You'd be saying no, yes. And how are you going to pay then in terms of the economics? Again, looking through your economic policies, how are you going to pay for all these things that you want to implement?
I would
increase taxes.
I wouldn't increase taxes on the PAYE earner. I think they earn enough. I think they're taxed enough. The man in the street is taxed enough. I think if we make corporations actually pay the tax that they owe and not have these offshore accounts or islands seen as some sort of tax haven, if corporations such as Google, Amazon, Facebook, who are based up in Dublin, actually pay the corporation tax that we owe, we can implement many of the policies that we have in our manifesto. And also, I think it was a big mistake of the Irish government appealing against Apple the €14 billion that Apple is supposed to owe us. We should have taken that money and we could have improved our health service, we could have improved our roads and put in many of those green policies without taxing the man in the street.
Well, there's still issues relating to that going through the court, so that may still be a live issue. A person has texted in, as a person who's experienced fatal fetal abnormalities twice and needed an abortion, you've lost her vote.
But and I'm sorry to hear that about that lady, but we are not only a one-party issue. We are trying to break the political cartel. We believe that human rights extend to all individuals, no matter your stage of life.
And in that particular case, obviously, where would you have given advice? Would you say to somebody else to go to somebody else for the advice?
But Damien, I think we are going off track here from my clinical acumen, actually, as to what AIM2 policy is. AIM2 policy now, if we got in government...
And I was looking for that in the thing, to say, would AIM2 actually support rowing back and changing the law?
Well, in that regard, if we have a good day on the 8th of February and we had 3 or 4 TDs and we had the sway of power, we would be, and I was one of those TDs, I would be seeking pain relief for children who are being aborted mid to late term, as the fetus does feel pain when being aborted. I would stop abortions being conducted on the basis of sex or race, as abortion actually targets female babies more often than not. And I think it's wrong. I think it's very wrong that a baby is actually aborted on the virtue that it's a girl. That is not right at all.
So if AIM2 were in government, would you look at reversing the law as it was changed in the last few years?
Well, at this point, we have to win hearts and minds, and we have to win the narrative. I still stand behind my point of view on that abortion is not the option for a lady having an unwanted pregnancy. We would seek to row back on the law in that regard, in making abortion illegal for race and gender, and also to give pain relief to the child when she's been aborted. But also we have to win hearts and minds on the argument, on the pro-life argument.
Is there an immigration policy high up within your party policies?
Well, immigration now is an issue, and again, I don't think that was debated, as well as health. imagine two big issues weren't debated on the leaders' debate last night: health and immigration. And these are two issues that are very real to the people in the streets. We have now 20% of the country in the Republic that weren't born on the island of Ireland. Okay, so therefore immigration has to be, including myself.
Yeah.
Including myself. Including myself. But again, I'm talking about the new Irish. I would consider myself an Irishman. I'm talking about the new Irish that have come into my country, into our country, and one of them is my wife, so who is Polish. Yeah. So, but we do have to have a debate, a rational debate on immigration and sustainable immigration. We should welcome the new Irish with open arms, but we also have to realise that we can't.
When does the new Irish become the old Irish? Like, how do you make the distinction? Is there a time?
Well, my wife would be one of the new Irish. She's been here for 10 or 12 years. She's now married to myself. I suppose my mother and father went to England in the 50s. I was born there. Ethnically, I would be Irish. My wife, ethnically, she admits she is Polish, not Irish, but she's one of the new Irish.
You've got 15 seconds to sum up. Why should people vote for you?
Well, I think people I've been hearing on the doorsteps, people want to change. The old political cartel that run this country, Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael, have forgotten about rural and regional Ireland. If people wish for a choice and people wish for a real option, I would ask them to vote for myself, Dr. Cleary, and Aontú on 8th of February.
Dr. Cleary, thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Damien.
Now, Sinead from our news team has just come in to say that there's a single vehicle crash down at Callaghan's pub on the way to Dunmore. Nobody seriously injured, we hope, at present, but emergency services are out there. So if you're on that direction or out that way, expect delays. Now joining me is Pat Edwards. Good morning, Pat.
Good morning, Damien.
Deise Animal Sanctuary, Hazel McCarthy, Woofers Kennels. Good morning.
Good morning, Damien.
And I think we've got Stephanie on the line. Hello, Stephanie.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us. Put on your headphones there, ladies, if you want, for a second. Stephanie, you found the pups, is that right?
That's right, yes. It was a lovely Sunday morning. As we all know, the sun was out and I was taking my dogs out for a longer walk. And I was quite a distance down the lane and I saw this white bag hanging from a shrub. Now, to be quite honest, we often have something in the lane, but what really struck me was that it was actually hanging on a branch. So on closer inspection, I saw there was a slit and there was obviously fur inside. So I took the bag down and I have to say it was very tightly knotted. It was a white Centra bag. Put it on the ground, opened it up, and I was just absolutely horrified to see these beautiful, perfect little puppies in there, one with his mouth just gaping open. It was, it's a sight you just don't forget. There were three perfect puppies.
Oh.
And there was also a pink, I think, with child's garment in the bag as well. Now my dogs were going absolutely mad, with the fines, and I was trying to hold them back from the puppies, and I wasn't quite sure what to do. So anyway, I covered them up again, and I walked all the way back home. I was going to take the car out, but then thankfully Hazel had also been notified, and she went along and picked them up, and thankfully took them away. But I just can't understand in this day and age, if you have a bitch and you don't want puppies, for heaven's sake, have them neutered.
Yes.
It's just, it was horrible to find it. I mean, how can a person do that?
Stephanie, stay on the line with us for a minute, please, and have a listen to what we're going to talk about now. Pat Edwards, Deise Animal Sanctuary, the story that Stephanie's telling there, it's just awful.
It's quite a common one, I'm afraid, and it's going to get worse this time of the year. There's new legislation coming in February 2020, and that's going to state that the 6 or more pet animals in a year must register with the Department of Marine or Food, and that's going to be for selling or supplying. So there will be bookkeeping then. But unfortunately, it's like the docking law that came out in 2014. Who's going to enforce it?
Tell us about that law. Remind us about that law.
Well, the docking law came out that you were no longer allowed to dock puppies unless under medical conditions from the vet. To be honest, 3 years on down the line, 4 years on down the line, you're still seeing pups going down the road being walked with docks on the tail, so the tails have been chopped off. It still goes on. Who's enforcing it? Nobody.
Hazel, what's your views about all this?
I just think it's absolutely horrendous. And as Pat said, like, it is getting worse. It's not getting better. It's worse it's getting. I mean, once I was aware of the puppies there, I just had to go up and remove them for fear of another animal taking them or a car rolling over them. So I brought them to the vet and he disposed of them as well. But he was horrified over it as well. Absolutely horrified. But as he said, it is quite a common thing. He said, also he told me a story there a couple of weeks ago about a lady saw a gentleman with a plastic bag on a bike on the Feathered Bridge, and basically he threw the bag over the bridge. Thankfully the tide was out, and basically when they rescued the bag there was 13 live puppies in it, and they were brought to the vets. So they survived. So as the vet said to me, and as Pat knows, like, it's very, very common. It's more common than people would be aware of, unfortunately.
Stephanie, somebody had to do this, right? Somebody had to actually put the dogs into a bag and throw the bag on the roadside. Now, the mentality of somebody to do that, we wouldn't expect them to come forward and put their hands up. But more than likely, somebody knows the person who did it.
Yeah.
Like, what would you have to say to somebody who's out there that knows who did this? Should they contact the Gardaí privately, the confidential line? Like, what would you have to say to anybody? What appeal would you make to somebody listening to this?
I would appeal to them to report it. If they want to do it anonymously, fine. But, if you know who did it, I mean, can you live with that? And it might happen again and again. It probably will happen again and again. You just tell someone, look, I know what happened. I know so-and-so did it. We can't carry on like this.
I presume it's an image that's going to stay with you for a long while.
Well, it will, yes. I mean, I'm a great dog lover. I've got 2 rescue dogs. I just love dogs. They're fantastic human companions. And I don't see how anyone could treat an animal like that, have absolutely total disregard for this little life.
Pat, a lot of people listening to this love animals. I love animals. You love animals. Why is it that some people just have a completely different view about this? Like, how can somebody do that to a living creature?
To be honest, some of the cases that we get up, we've just took in a little dog 5 weeks old, thrown in a ditch. We get them all the time. It's part of everyday life for us. I'm not being funny. In a lot of rescues, the different circumstances. We're very fortunate. We have a lot of dogs from ethnic minority and things like that brought up to us, and they bring us up to us with broken legs. All right, people say, oh, you shouldn't help them. But I look at it a different way. If they're coming to us, they're not ending up dead somewhere else or left to die. They're bringing them up to us. We took a litter of pups off somebody the week because they found them in a hedge. We took them in. We had 6 pups. We brought them round. We lost 1. And we do lose pups. And we do lose dogs to parvo. That's life, you know what I mean? But we do home to Ireland as well. And a lot of people say Ireland's a cruel country. Any country's a cruel country. You can find fault everywhere. When I was in England, I was over the animal welfare over there. It was just the same over there, and sometimes worse. It's just that you hear more about it in Ireland because it's such a small country compared to everywhere else.
Stephanie, what can be done about it? Like, is education the key? Should there be a massive education sort of aspect? I'll come to you in a second, Stephanie. I'll go to ask Hazel first. What, in your experience, Hazel, as somebody who runs the kennels, people that put their dogs into kennels care about their dogs. They're not leaving them at home when they're gone away or whatever, so they care. What can be done about it, do you think?
Well, it's very hard to pinpoint because, I mean, it's always going to happen no matter what laws or legislations are brought in anyway. But unfortunately, like the laws and legislations that are in place, they're not actioned on. And unfortunately, maybe the government, the Gardaí, whoever it boils down to is the fact that it's manpower as well. They don't have the manpower to enforce the laws maybe as well. And also, if they do enforce it, it's a very long process from what I'm aware of. So they don't want to get involved in that either. So they just turn a blind eye to it.
I'll come to you one last second, Stephanie. Pat, what do you think the solution is?
Well, to be honest, there's a lot of solutions. And in England, I'm not going on about UK, but in England, there's a line over there that it's called causing unnecessary suffering. And that is for the public can actually take that person to court themselves. Over here, it's a criminal offence. Over there, it's a civil offence. So if a publican, say you're walking down the street and somebody's kicking a dog, you can actually take them people to court in England. Over here, you have to notify the guard, you need the evidence, you need the proof, you need everything. And like I said, Hazel was right, it's such a long process that people aren't taking it on. It's like horses on the highway. It's up to the guards to enforce it. And
does that system work in Britain?
Yeah, because to be honest, it's the average rescue. You've got to remember, it's the ISPCA that enforce everything over here, not the local rescues who are doing most of the jobs.
Stephanie, what's your view about what can be done about all this?
Well, I agree with Hazel and with Pat. I mean, we have laws, but nothing's being done, really. We haven't got the manpower and so on. But I do think perhaps we should perhaps have having more education at school level and really start educating children right from primary school about caring for animals, the necessity of neutering them, and, you know, all the things that go regarding animal care at home and looking after them. And perhaps the next generation will be better, hopefully.
Yeah. Stephanie, I'll let you go. We got a text in from Val in Dungarvan. It's such a shame the issue of animal welfare isn't being highlighted in this election. Puppy farms need to be taken out of control of the councils who are only interested in income. People also need to think before they go online and buy designer dogs. The suffering in Ireland is getting out of control. A shameful indictment. Stephanie, thanks for joining us this morning, and mind yourself, OK?
Thank you very much, Damien.
Thank you very much. Pat, thanks very much for joining us. If anybody has any issues or anybody wants to contact yourselves, Deise Animal Sanctuary.
Yeah, not a problem. Or phone me direct on 087 311 9509. I'll be happy to answer any questions.
087 311
9509.
And Woofers Kennels, Hazel McCarthy. Hazel, thanks for coming into us.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it. Not at all. It's a terrible that we have to talk about these subjects sometimes.
It's awful, and so it is, and it's heartbreaking as well to come across something like that.
Yeah.
So it is. A lot of people wouldn't be able to stomach something like that, to see it like it would actually, it'd affect them.
Yeah, it really would. Ed has texted in, we need enforcement. People stop buying status dogs. Animal cruelty needs to become a serious issue.
Yeah.
Ladies, thanks very much for joining us. We are back with all your questions about healthcare.
Thanks.
Now, in a minute, I am going to be talking to Dermot Good about some of your questions regarding healthcare. Firstly, John D. Walsh, who's involved in a number of campaigns in the past, has texted in to say, well done to Dr. Ronan Cleary. I hate the word abnormal in reference to disabled babies. What a loaded word, inviting prejudice. Nobody should be regarded as abnormal. The only abnormal people are those who regard babies as prime for killing on basis of their handicap. Johnny has texted in, Johnny Cluno has texted in, what nonsense and contradictions from Ain2. Racism is a pernicious ideology, has no solutions for people and especially working people. It only benefits the power elite, and learn the lessons from history. Some other differing views regarding what Ain2 have to say. Now we're going to go straight to Dermot Good. Hello, Dermot.
Good morning, Damien.
Thank you very much for joining us. You were with totalhealthcover.ie. 1/5 of people's health insurance premiums fall due for renewal in January. What should people do now the last week in January? Where should they be going if they're thinking of, oh God, I've forgotten about this?
Well, the main thing, Damien, I'm going to say now is that they need to pick up the phone and start shopping around. Because, look, the bad news is, and I hate to be now, let's just say, giving bad news.
A curmudgeon.
Yes, unfortunately, all the rates have gone up. So we're back to the bad old days of lots of small price increases. So every person with health insurance, valuable and all as it is, their rates have gone up. So they're seeing increases anything from 90 up to €650, depending on the plan. So really, I suppose our message to everybody is don't auto-renew. And what that means is too many people, particularly your older listeners, they do nothing. They're afraid, they're worried about dropping benefits, they're worried about breaking cover, none of which, by the way, happens if you manage this properly. And therefore, they let the cover roll over, and they're on the older plans. Now, Damien, these older plans, in many cases, are 2,500, let's just say, to 3,000 per adult. right? And can I tell you, for those people, if they do a proper review, in many cases, the savings are 500 to 1,000 per adult, right? And that's not an exaggeration.
Wow.
Too many people, if you're on, for example, the old Plan B options with VHI, which is now called Health Plus Extra, or you're on the Level 2 hospital with Irish Life Health, or the Essential Plus schemes with Leia Healthcare, good cover. But those plans are 10, 15, 20 years on the market. Those plans are way too expensive. They are not good value for money. And for most people, when they do a review of those plans, they end up moving. And sometimes, Damien, you don't even have to change insurance company. That's another myth. People think they have to switch. Not necessarily. So the main message is to all of your listeners, open the envelope, don't leave it for somebody else, get onto your insurance company, ask them to recommend the next lowest plan to what they have.
John has phoned into 051846123. He asks, which healthcare provider has the cheapest plans? And if you move from one plan to another within the same provider, are you excluded from cover for a period of time?
Okay, so no one provider has the cheapest plans. Each provider has different plans at each price point. So, for example, like whether you're VHI, Leia or Irish Life, they have an entry-level plan that's €500. They have a mid-level plan that's around $950 to $1,000, and they all have corporate plans as well. I'll give you the names of the three best mid-level plans in a moment, Damien. But to answer that question regarding changing cover, if I upgrade my cover from a low plan to a higher plan, if I'm perfectly healthy, the higher plan kicks in immediately. If I have any existing conditions, well, the existing conditions will still be assessed based on the previous plan for the next 2 years. So in other words, you can't suddenly bump up your cover when you've just been diagnosed with something. You'll still be covered, but based on the previous plan, which is fair. Okay. For your listeners who are thinking of joining, and Damien, there's a myth as well. A lot of people, particularly younger people, they think, sure, I don't need to join. The public system will fully cover me. It won't. Yeah. And the public system is not free. It's €80 per night. So every young person listening now who's thinking they don't need cover, if they end up in Waterford Regional Hospital, it's going to cost them up to €800 per year anyway. The three best mid-level plans, Damien, the benefit plan from Irish Life at $965, very good cover, and the VHI one plan $150, and the Leia Essential Health 300, both $997. Both good cover as well. So anybody who's thinking of joining and wants reasonable cover that's going to cover, we'll say, the Whitfield Clinic, the private hospital closest to most people in the area, or the regional hospital, they're the three plans they should start with.
A person has texted in, Susan, she phoned in, if you have a pre-existing condition, how long is it before you have cover? I think it depends on the condition, doesn't it?
It does. Now, here's what I'd say again. You see, okay, so strictly speaking, Damien, if somebody joins and they have an existing condition, so I have a knee injury from playing sports or whatever, if I take out health insurance and I need to go in, we'll say, once again, to Whitfield to get surgery, the insurance companies are not going to pay for that for the first 5 years because I have that condition on joining. After 5 years, it's covered forevermore.
Okay.
Now, lots of people join, though, with existing conditions, like they might have asthma, diabetes, they might have epilepsy, they might have, let's just say, blood pressure, cholesterol. We wouldn't worry about that. They are pre-existing, but most of that's going to be managed on an outpatient basis with your GP. So once again, what I'd say to your listeners, if somebody has a chronic long-term condition, join, get your 5 years out of the way, it's covered then for the rest of your life. And the one thing that never happens in health insurance, it doesn't matter how ill you are, it doesn't matter how many claims you make, your premium will never reflect that risk. You will always pay the same as everybody else. So, I would encourage anybody who basically has existing conditions like that aren't going to go away, look at taking out cover, get the 5 years out of the way, and after that you're covered forevermore.
Okay. Those that can't afford cover, it's one of those problems. What should they do if they're looking initially and saying, okay, I'm at a certain age? Is it literally just a case of shopping around? Because some of the plans and details are quite difficult in terms of getting into the meat of it, aren't they?
They are. I mean, there's two things I'd say to your listeners now on this, Damien. First of all, if you're confused by all the plans, decide on your budget. Literally decide how much can I afford to spend on this. And good health insurance is going to cost you anything from €900 to €1,200 for the year. But just decide on the budget and then just phone the three insurance companies. And unlike car insurance or life insurance, tell them, I have $950 to spend. What is the best plan you can give me across all your plans for that amount of money? I just want your best value plan. And once you get that from each of the three of them, just get those comparisons and then you can compare and contrast. But look, health insurance, it is not cheap. And unfortunately, there's a lot of people who are priced out of the market. There's a lot of people who are now trying to join. Damien, they're over 34. they're being hit by these age loadings. There is, by the way, just for your listeners who maybe will never be able to afford private health insurance, there are other health products that they can buy. I mean, for example, anybody who's having a lot of dental treatment, they can buy a really good dental plan from Deise Dental. And those plans, like their top plan, which is the Healthy Smiles Level 4 scheme, I think they're €360 for the year. But they cover you for thousands worth of dental work. And another plan, Damien, which most people don't even know about, is these cash plans from HSF Health Plan. And these plans are designed to give you money back on all your routine expenses like GP, physio, prescription glasses, and they also, by the way, give you a small cash allowance for every day you're in hospital. So they're not health insurance, but for people who maybe either don't want health insurance or will never be able to afford it, definitely check out Deise Dental or check out HSF Health Plan. Fantastic products that anybody can buy.
And I know on your website, totalhealthcover.ie, you have a lot of references to this and a lot more information there. I encourage people to go there. Dermot, thanks for joining us this morning.
Not at all, my pleasure.
Thank you, Dermot. Good there from totalhealthcover.ie. As I say, it is actually a good website for looking at the different plans such as this. Damien, my wife has Parkinson's. She couldn't get travel insurance. Is that right? I know Dermot is not dealing, he's gone now, but he wasn't dealing with travel insurance. I'm not sure. If anybody has any answers to that, can you let us know, please? 083 3333 975. And again, the question, my wife has Parkinson's. She couldn't get travel insurance. Is that right? Now, in the next hour, listen out. Are we going to play Green Day's holiday song? Are we going to play Green Day's holiday song as part of our Thanks to Harvey Travel Cork Airport and WLR, the final week of our holiday giveaway? Once you hear that song, if we do play it, text the word holiday, HOLIDAY, to 083 3333 975, or you can call 051 123. Jim has phoned in to say, if it's true, if you don't have health insurance, the most you'd have to pay in a year is €750 if you did need to be admitted to a hospital and if you were in good health. This would be better than paying monthly premiums that you might not use. Jim, I'm not sure about that. I don't know. Hi, Damien. All Clear insurance companies will cover for any illness. They're backed in England and they provide a great service. So that's possibly in response to the Parkinson's. All Clear Insurance Company. They may well be able to provide travel insurance cover. A lot more coming up in the second half of the show.